Cashflow Diary podcast, episode 549.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about something that I know from experience, I know from constant use and practice, the thing that helps us do what we do all the time. And that's technology. Now, yes, I'm talking to you via technology at this particular moment in time, but also learning to leverage the correct pieces of technology inside of your business has the ability to help you, explode just doesn't seem like the right word because your efficiency absolutely matters. In fact, if you've never measured your production, your revenue on a per second basis across an entire year, I encourage you to do so. And then I just encourage you to try to increase it over and over and over again. And oftentimes the way that we do that is with technology, with software, and being able to use it correctly, understand it, and actually make sure that we know what it is best at makes all the difference. I have with me today someone who has been brave, because I consider every entrepreneur in that particular field brave, because making software is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It may not even be fun after a while, but they keep doing it because they have a passion for it. And I have with me none other than Dave Spooner, the co-founder of Innago, a property management software designed to simplify, keywords, life for small to mid landlords, which the world should rejoice because everybody wants to address the person who has 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 units and help them. But if you've ever found Yardi way too complicated or Rent Manager more than you absolutely needed, I'm guessing that today's guest has a little bit to say about exactly that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take some time today. We're going to make sure that, yes, I know you're possibly washing the dishes, walking the dog, but let's pay attention. Let's get ready to listen, learn, and love Dave Spooner. Dave, how you doing?
I'm great, Jay. Thanks so much for having me. Heck of an intro. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, it's born of frustration mostly because I have tried to use all of manage of software and they're anyway, you already know.
That's it. It's real with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go down this road, though, I've got to. This is your first time here, so I've got to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody the first time that they're here. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready.
I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, like Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, etc. Because I think superheroes and entrepreneurs have a ton of things in common. For example, as a superhero, I can occasionally imagine myself flying around town, using our products, saving customers one sale at a time, because that's what an entrepreneur would do. Also, though, an entrepreneur has a beginning. And if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos, and then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers, oh man, I have a superhuman ability. What am I going to do with it? And now he gets to choose whether to use it for good or for evil. So my question to you, especially because of what you do, is before Innago, before being involved in software, tech, real estate, etc., before anything that we all know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Dave Spooner?
Well, I will say I was a Spider-Man guy growing up. So that
Awesome.
was always my favorite animated show. So before I got involved in entrepreneurship, actually kind of the reason I got involved in entrepreneurship is I was an English and history major in college. So way
Really?
far away from what I'm doing now. Yeah, totally, totally different.
Wow.
And I was lucky enough, I got to participate in this program. I went to Miami University, go Red Hawks. I got to participate in this program. It was like an honors curriculum, and we were able to put together our own scholarship, really from start to finish. It was kind of a master's style program in a way, but in an undergrad environment. And one of the things that I was able to participate in, or the thing that I was able to do, is design from start to finish this thesis that we were going to present to the board of the history department. And it was very entrepreneurial. We got to kind of do our own thing. We applied for grants. I was able to fly overseas. I interviewed some folks in Prague and Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, I should say. And it was just a very entrepreneurial experience. And in a very circuitous manner, I ended up thinking a lot about entrepreneurship and kind of taking ownership over something, and getting creative with the way that you're problem solving. And that's actually how I got involved in entrepreneurship. So 10 years ago, I thought I wanted to be a PhD in history, and here we are, and I'm doing software now. So you never know.
Yeah. You know what, Dave? I'll give you one guess at what my two worst subjects were.
I'm gonna say English and history. How'd I do?
Yeah, that is correct. 100. Parents have anything to say? Like, dude, what do you mean software? Like, history, English? This is not the same thing.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it was, I just kind of got that bug, that experience of trying to build something yourself, and once you have it, it's really addictive. Once you kind of experience that for the first time, and like you said at the top of the show, I mean, being an entrepreneur, whether you're in real estate, whether you're in software, whatever you're in, but maybe software especially, it is like banging your head against the wall, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. So it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So
Well,
once you have that bug, though, you can't turn away from it. Software is just such a good place to experiment, to get creative, and to try different things. So it seemed like the right place to be.
okay. So you've got to just tell us, level with this, because there's always this point, especially in the entrepreneur's life. There's, what they've built their brand around, so to speak, who they are, how people relate to them. And then all of a sudden, did it appear for other people as like, wait, what? Or did they expect you? Were you always the entrepreneur? You just thought you were the history person, or were you really the English and history person who discovered that you were the entrepreneur?
I think people were pretty surprised. I think I was pretty much the English and history guy that everyone was like, "Oh yeah, he'll go get an advanced degree. He's gonna just be a professor someday, or he'll always be around university." And then all of a sudden, I was kind of flipping it around. I was surprised myself. I mean, in some ways, you kind of fall into it, and
Yeah.
just looking for different, unique experiences. So yeah, I would say people were definitely surprised by it. I think, like I said, if you look closely, if you look deeply, there's a lot of parallels to what somebody pursuing unique and creative scholarship goes through, that an entrepreneur goes through. So I think those that really know maybe saw some path there, but most people were like, "What are you doing?"
I can only imagine. I can just see it one day. You've got Moby Dick in one hand, and the next day it's like the fundamentals of computer science. There are people like, whoa,
Yeah, exactly.
wait, what? I don't, because that book doesn't even really read like a book, when you're starting to go down the tech road and all of those things. So here's a question, because there's a phrase you just used a second ago. You said you get the bug for building something. Was software the first thing that you've ever attempted to build? What are some of the other things? What was that initial thing like Spider-Man, where you got bit by the bug?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's a great question. I would say the first thing, not to go back to it, but the first thing that I felt like I was building was that thesis, that piece of scholarship.
Interesting.
And like I said, I was applying for grants. I was meeting with various professors. I was interviewing people. I was going through, in some ways, there's all these parallels to, interviewing clients to understand what the market is like, what the market's looking for. Just understanding how to navigate all those different little pieces where I saw those parallels. I saw where it all kind of lined up. So I would say that was the first thing that I really had an opportunity to build. I did take some software classes at school because, again, I was just looking for things that were interesting and different. I was interested in actually, if I was going to go into history, I was going to pursue the history of the internet and the history of networked archaeology is what they call it, and the way that people communicate and interact with one another. So I did have there were some parallels there too. But yeah, I'd say that piece of scholarship was really the first thing that I built, and then I got started on something that I'm not working on anymore. It wasn't Innago, but another software platform that I worked on for a couple of years. So that was really the first one in the entrepreneurial world, in the software world that I was working on. But yeah, I guess that piece of scholarship would really be where it all started.
You know what's interesting? You now hold the record as the first guest to actually make me feel old, because I remember when I got my first email address, because everybody else were getting their first email address, and you just said you were going to do a thesis on the history of the internet. And it's like, come on, man. It's not that old yet. It should not have the history of the internet. Anyway, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Now, you also said that you kind of fall into it. In my experience, now having been in the real estate world for a while, having been an instructor and a teacher, podcaster, all these things, and led tens of thousands, dare I say hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs on their path, the idea of honestly doing software, because there's tons of holes that all of the other companies leave and things that they don't know, because it feels like there's the person who knows how to do software, then the person who knows how to do real estate but doesn't know how to do software, and then the person who knows how to do real estate can't make software, and then it's just never what we need. And every time I've looked into it, it's a very expensive proposition that seems like it takes forever before you get to your minimal viable product. And I just go, I don't know that I have the patience for it. So you must share with me, where does that come from? How can you even stomach going through all of the iterations and testing just to bring it to market?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I'd say one of the biggest challenges, to kind of piggyback on that, is that once it's in market, it's so amorphous. I mean, it needs to change. That you're going to get feedback from folks that say, this that you thought was going to work great, even that maybe we asked for specifically, it's not working. We need to change this. And you're constantly like swapping out cards on a house of cards, which is not an easy task to do. So yeah, it's really, it continues to grow. It continues to change, and you continue to have to really hammer through all of that. So yeah, we when we first started, we had a lot of feedback. We wanted to really listen to landlords and close the gap on the real estate side of things, because we had some experience in real estate. We had some folks that were advising us that had a lot of experience in real estate, but the core members of the team were not, we didn't have 30 years of property management experience. We didn't have 20 years of owning real estate ourselves. We had the software side of it. We had the how to create intuitive, easy to use platform side of it knocked out, but we didn't have the real estate side. So one of the biggest things that we committed to early on was listening to our customers, listening to those that were not our customers, listening to those that decided not to be our customers, tried it out and said, this isn't working for me, getting as much feedback as possible to try to close that gap as quickly as possible. And I can tell you the gap still exists. It never is going to go away. You're never going to have the perfect piece of software, because new technology shows up, laws change, rules change, different things that people are looking for change. The demographic that owns rental units is constantly shifting, and the things that are important to them are changing. So we look at it as an ongoing challenge. And that's really what's exciting about the project and the company, is that we can continue to build it. It's not just to set it and forget it. It's something that is, like I said, amorphous and building on itself and getting better and better as time goes on and as we get more and more users.
I think that you just hit on why I've not been able to pull that trigger. It's because it feels like it never ends.
Yep.
and
you got to be ready to fight. That's for sure. 'Cause it's a long.
Yeah. Now, okay. All right. So let me ask this then. When it comes to that, like, and also when I've run the numbers, just being able to find the talent and put it all together, it's very, front end heavy, we'll say.
Yep.
To be able to get to the, that break even point, and then having to just run the numbers on just the sheer marketing cost to get the quantity of repeat customers that are required. Here's ultimately what I'm building up to is you could have done anything, man. I think you chose one of the most difficult things to do.
You're right. I think I've learned that over the years.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, so help me understand where the passion, where does that drive? What is it that continue? Because every day you continue, you're making the choice. Nope, this is the one. This is the one I want to do. I know there are other things, but this is it. What is driving that? All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'm glad that you are enjoying what you are hearing thus far. But here's one of the things that's really important. One of the most important things that you can do is get started. One of the things that I've said before, and I say again, once you get started, stay started. But more importantly, there can be lots of roadblocks to getting started. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of those roadblocks for you and make it a little bit easier. Because the thing that I don't want to stop you is thinking, do I need a local number? How about a long distance number? Or should it be 800? How on earth am I going to make that happen so that people can contact me as I'm out there building my business, making my cash flow grow? But most importantly, understanding that it doesn't have to be difficult. Many of you may know, but if you don't, there's a company out there by the name of Grasshopper. And what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygrasshopper.com/CashFlowDiary. Grasshopper is the entrepreneur's phone system. It works like a traditional phone system, but requires no hardware to purchase, no software to install. It's just a number that flat works. So if you are out there building that distributed workforce across many different locations, it's a way for you to still go out there and make your number be unified, simple, easy to use, something we've been using for quite some time. So again, go over to trygrasshopper.com/CashFlowDiary. Now, let's get back to the rest of the story.
Yeah, well, the beauty of software development, of building a software as a service platform, of marketing that platform, of connecting with customers and clients and partners, is that it is constantly changing. And I'm the type of person that doesn't want to be, sitting in a cubicle doing the same thing every day for 25 years. I want to be constantly taking on new challenges and trying new things out. And there's really not many better places to do that than building a software product and bringing it to market and putting it in front of customers and making sure your customers are happy and satisfied. So while it's really challenging and while it takes a ton of focus and constant focus and you can never really let up and you got to always be working hard on it. It is constantly changing. It is fun. It is exciting. It's always a new challenge. It's always something different. There's always something new to learn. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to be, an English and history major and thought about pursuing a PhD in history is because I truly enjoy learning. I like trying new things out. I like learning about new things, and software is actually a great place to do that.
Yeah, I can only. Well, yeah. I mean, the speed at which connections change, interface change. There's so many moving parts, and they're all dynamic and fluid. I can only imagine what that feels like, or what your Monday morning, all hands meeting goes. Here we go. What are we going to find today? That
right, yeah.
That type of thing. So that makes sense. So now I'm sure you've been asked this before. But I got to know, because every time an entrepreneur, goes about to create something, one of the things we go through is many iterations of what are we going to call this thing?
Yeah.
So, Innago, please explain the name.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Yes.
We always get this question.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
meant to invoke a sense of simplicity and organization and order, and just kind of a brightness and improvement. Kind of like in the way that, obviously Google is a Googleplex, but they're taking a word that represents all these different numbers and a ton of different stuff and simplifying that word down and trying to articulate the fact that that's what they're doing with Google, right? They're taking all these different millions and billions of links and articles out there and simplifying them down for you and cutting them short so that you get the good stuff. And that's kind of what we're trying to invoke with Innago is this sense of simplicity, this sense that it's going to take your craziness of your properties and your portfolio, and it's going to just simplify it down for you. So it doesn't really technically mean anything. It's kind of a nonsense word, but hopefully it sticks in your mind and gives you that kind of feeling and that warmth when you hear it.
Well, the other thing that to always remember is that when we're thinking of these names like Innago, the customers never know. Google meant nothing until Google made it mean something. And that's kind of your job, our job, to go out there and make that happen. So share with us, if you will, exactly what, I mean, we've hinted at it and we've kind of talked around it, but in a very clear and direct way. I mentioned Yardi, I mentioned Rent Manager, and there's a ton more.
Yeah.
But why Innago? Why would the small to medium, first of all, I need you to define what you mean by small to medium size landlord. What are they going to benefit from here when it comes with Innago versus, it's hard to say anything about the others because they're hard to use.
Right. That's the key. That's it. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's why Innago started, is because we were involved in the real estate space with another software platform. Me and my partner, the CTO of Innago, my co-founder, Yasser Drabu, we heard so much feedback from landlords saying there's nothing out there that really works. It's affordable, that's easy to use. A lot of the landlords that we work with, they have a day job, right? They work a 9 to 5, and then they own investment properties. Maybe they own 5, maybe they own 100. Maybe they do it full time, but even so, if they're managing 100 units themselves full time, they don't have the time to learn to get certified to use Yardi. One of the exercises that we go through whenever we hire somebody new in Innago is we go onto LinkedIn and we type into LinkedIn in the search bar Yardi or Appfolio or whatever it might be. And I'm not looking for employees of those companies. I'm looking for people that work for property management companies or landlords or real estate companies whose job title is Yardi expert. And I always point out to the new hire, if we ever find somebody on Innago or on LinkedIn that says that they are a Innago expert, we have completely failed in our job, because nobody should need to be an Innago expert. You don't have Gmail experts out there, right? You don't have people that know how to, market themselves as, I'm going to teach you how to use Gmail, right? At least most people don't. So that was the focus. It was, how do we build this platform that is really, really simple, that's really intuitive, that anybody can pick up and start using and actually accomplish things and get things done. And that's what we started building. And what we quickly realized is the other thing that you run into. So that's the one major barrier to entry, is that it's too difficult to use. It's too complex. And the other major barrier was the cost of it. So we said, all right, let's just make it free. So we made it free. So it's totally free for landlords. There's absolutely no cost. There's no contracts. And we're offering a lot of the major tools that you would want to see in your management platform, from collecting rent online to screening your tenants to signing leases digitally, receiving maintenance tickets, having sub-users like maintenance personnel, communicating with your tenants, et cetera. It's all in there. It's free, and it's really quite easy to use.
Now, the next question, so go ahead.
Yep, I'm ready for it.
Well, you already know. I mean, because there's someone who was listening right now. They were just like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then you said the magic 4-letter word, and you probably caused a traffic incident or something right now. Right. So help us understand the thought process. How do you guys work? Because that's the first thing that comes up for nearly everyone then is, okay, if it's free, are you going to be there to support it? And so how? Why would I use it? And then you guys go away because it was free? I mean, help me out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is always the next question.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
So we looked at it and we said, why are we charging landlords? Landlords are our partners in this equation. We're trying to help landlords. We're trying to make their lives easier. So let's no longer charge landlords. Instead, we shifted the charge to folks that can easily pay for it and who can spread it around, and it's not going to cost them a whole heck of a lot, and that's the tenant. So instead of charging the landlord, we charge for only two things in Innago. Both are charged to the tenants or the applicants. One is screening reports. When a tenant or a potential tenant applies to one of your properties, you can determine whether or not you want them to give you a credit and criminal report or a credit, criminal, and eviction report. If you choose credit and criminal, it's $30 paid by the applicant. If you choose credit, criminal, and eviction, it's $35. So pretty standard application fees. You're no longer needing to collect those or run them yourselves. They show up instantly in your account. Applicant pays for it. Everybody's happy. The second thing that we make money on is the rental transaction. So when a tenant goes in and pays rent online, they have two methods of payment available to them. They can pay by ACH or e-check. They can pay by credit or debit card. If they pay by ACH, it's only $2 to make the transaction. It's actually 2% capped at $2. So if it's like a $10 transaction, it's just 20 cents. But anyway, it's $2 per transaction. And then it's 2.75% on debit and credit card transactions. So from the landlord standpoint, 100% free. From the tenant standpoint, really low cost. And we actually give away things like free transactions all the time for doing things like signing up for auto pay, or, entering in all your contact info properly, or, adding some pictures of your address, whatever it is. We'll give away some free transactions to get them motivated and excited about using the platform.
Awesome. Love it 100%. So I'm assuming the landlords have been excited about this. And from going through and looking at your website and things, it was intriguing. I was at least happy, and I'm just going to shoot you straight here. I was like, wow, at least they put an app on there. Cause because sometimes that's the bar is set so low with this stuff. Sometimes it's like, okay, can you just have an app? And then the fact that you guys are doing lease signing and all that other stuff digitally too was, encouraging, because I think part of the challenge for most landlords, at least that for me, I'll speak for me, is the organization of all of the critical data points, because later, and this is where I'm headed, later, I need that information to create reports, which gives me the business intelligence to make my next decision on my next acquisition. Is that something you guys handle as well?
Yeah. So, again, you nailed it there. So what we're trying to do is automate the things that are really just data collection, right? Or moving things around that you don't really need to participate in, so that you can do the heavy lifting that's required on your end as the actual owner and investor, which is making those business decisions. But you need that information in front of you. So with Innago, we're not doing full back end accounting. We're not going to replace your CPA. We're not going to replace your heavy duty program that's calculating amortization and where to make your next investment. But we are going to provide you all the information about your existing investments, from the income that's coming into your properties to the expenses that are going out to it. And you can generate reports on the fly. You can export all the data. It's your data. You can export it as a CSV file and pull it into other programs as needed. But it's really just about organizing, like you said, all of those data points and putting them in one simple, easy to access place from your phone, from your computer, wherever you are, so that you can then make those decisions and focus on growing your business rather than just managing the business that already exists.
Love it 100%. So I'm gonna do my best right now to throw you that curveball, if you will, that, hey, Dave, I think you're about to change again. And I want to see where this goes, because this would be, again, I'm going to be a little selfish for myself and many of the listeners, because while yes, we're in the real estate world, we don't do the traditional landlord thing. A lot of us, what we tend to focus on are short-term rentals. And to say that there's a lack of software there is an understatement. However, I'm curious, is that something that's on your roadmap? Is that something that you guys could handle in that sense, being able to organize that world of short-term rentals in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah. So when we first sat down and we said, how do we make this more intuitive? One of the biggest challenges that we realized that landlords face is that each state has its own real estate laws. And within each real estate sector, each landlord does things differently. And there's all these different real estate sectors like short-term rentals, corporate rentals,
Yep.
long-term rentals, student housing, commercial, etc. All these different parties that all want slightly different things. Fundamentally, it's the same core
Yep.
processes.
Yep.
But the actual way it manifests itself is different across the board.
Yep.
So the second thing that we identified right next to intuitive when we were putting this up on our whiteboard was flexible. It has got to be both of those things. And that's where it's challenging, is how to keep it both flexible, where you can do a lot of different things, but also intuitive, where those things are easy to understand and easy to follow. And we've put a lot of focus into that. And while we have not specifically designed ourselves for short-term rentals, we work with a lot of landlords that do short-term rentals because it is flexible enough to handle it. And that's kind of part of what I was talking about before, where it is an amorphous product. It's a product that's changing, it's continuing to evolve, and it's dynamic. And that's finding those different sectors that maybe are underserved and saying, okay, so our tools work pretty darn well for short-term rentals, but what are some of the gaps that are unique to short-term rentals that we haven't solved yet? What are ways that we can improve that? And we're continuing to do that. So by no means, it's not designed for short-term rentals specifically, but we have a lot of clients already on the platform that do it. So I encourage anybody that's interested that hasn't found anything yet to take a look at it, because it might be a perfect solution. At the very least, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what's missing in the market. It's always super helpful for us.
Love it 100%. And that is the quintessential entrepreneur answer. It's a long, not yet. Be right back. We'll figure it out and make it happen. And here's what you can do in the meantime. And that's exactly the type of thing that I think about a lot. And based upon your revenue model, I would venture to say it would become one of the more profitable types for you, because that was a lot for a lot of us. The reason that we made the switch or dabbling in it, so to speak, is because the revenue is easily 2 to 3x of what a traditional rental would be. And since you're on a percentage basis with the payments and you want to talk about screening fees, geez, we're completely doing that all day long. So those are the things that were going through my head on your side, and I'm like, this could work out for a lot of people. So when it comes down to building software, if someone was listening and regardless of the industry or what it is that they're doing, I'm just talking building software, what would you tell them? Like, what did you know? Because see, part of the thing that protects entrepreneurs and brings so many products to market is the fact that we are blissfully ignorant of just how difficult some of the things that we are attempting to do are. But now, Dave, you're no longer in that category. So talk to someone who has a software idea, and I'm curious to hear what you would tell them if they were just now getting started.
Yeah. I got really lucky because, like you said, I was totally unaware of how much work it was going to be. That naivete is honestly a critical ingredient. You can't know beforehand, because if you did, there's no way you'd try it out. There's no way you get as far as we have. I also got really lucky because my co-founder and my partner is a genius. I mean, he's a computer whiz, of course, and he has built the whole thing and has built out the team that continues to work on it. And he's super smart, super sharp. And that's honestly, these days, that's the key ingredient that I would identify for folks. I'd say you need to have somebody on your team that is a part of this thing that knows what the heck they're doing when it comes to software development and building software from the technical side. You have to have that, or you need to go out and get that yourself. Don't outsource all of it. Get it in-house. Get it on your team, because it's going to inform every single decision that you make. You're building a software product. You need a software expert. You have to have it. You can't just go out and find some firm and pay them $30,000 and say, build this for us, because their heart's not in it. They don't know the actual vision of the product. And after their work is done, they've moved on. You're going to pay them another $30,000 to stay on. It just becomes a vicious cycle in a lot of ways. So that's the biggest thing is having that technical side knocked out for you when you are doing software development. Dave,
if it was only going to be $30,000, I would have done
exactly.
it. That's all I'm going to say.
It's way more than that. That's a low ball number.
Like, that's not happening for 30 grand.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, totally understand. Now, for those that have listened this far and want to find out more, what's going to be the best way for them to track you down?
Yeah, you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can just look for Innago or Innago Software. But the best place to get in contact with us, the best place to find us is, of course, our website. Simple Google search INNAGO, N as in Nicholas, or Innago.com, INNAGO. Both great places to reach out to us, to get in contact with us, to find out more, and to try it out yourself.
Excellent. Now, as we wind down, I got a final question for you because I'm curious to hear your answer. You know, there's a number of people who have been listening, and they're at various stages of their own entrepreneurial journey. And I'm also aware that oftentimes it takes episodes like this, people like you, to help someone get to what I call the precipice of decision. It's that point where you go, you know what, that's it. I'm doing this. You know, it's kind of similar to when you said, you know what, that's it. I'm going down this, software thing. I don't need this English and history stuff. And then, but at the same time, when we get to those precipices, what happens is we often have a companion, and it's a companion that comes in the form of a voice, and it's a voice that reminds us. It says things like, you're going to do what? And don't you know what happened last time? Do you know how many people fail? I mean, I heard 9 out of 10 businesses fail. What do you think? What are you thinking? And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're going to follow through. They're going to do exactly what you suggest, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
I would say that I think what's really paid off for me from the beginning is that the kind of core drive that I had when I first got started in all this, like I mentioned before, it was a way to experience different things. It was a way to learn. It was a way to grow. I saw it as, I could go into, there's a couple paths through entrepreneurship. You can go the corporate route where you learn that way and then maybe try to split off and do entrepreneurship, or you can just dive right into entrepreneurship. And I saw the most accelerated path to learning, to going through that entrepreneurship, going in that direction. So as you're setting this up, as you're preparing to take on that challenge, make sure that you're doing it in such a way that you're going to continue to learn and grow, because not everybody's going to succeed. It's just the reality. It's not always going to work out. Your venture might fail. You might try this out and it might not work. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means you should do it in such a way where you're learning and growing. And the next time you try, you're going to be better at it. Or the next thing that you take on, whether it's, a fundraiser, whether it's a nonprofit that you get involved in, whether it's your day job, whatever it might be, that you're doing a better job of whatever that is because of what you learned from that experience. So make sure you're constantly learning. Make sure you're not getting stuck in a rut where you're doing the same thing every day and you're not growing and you're not trying new things and you're not challenging yourself in the business. And you'll get enough value to make it worth it, no matter how successful the actual venture is.
Well said, sir, because that's ultimately all we get to take with us from place to place anyway. And It's spoken like someone who has done that very thing. I just want to be the first to say thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary, sir.
Thanks so much, Jay. This was a ton of fun. Really appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? Well, I think it means, he said free. So go over to Innago.com, INNAGO.com. Why? Because you're curious, because you should, because you have high intention at this exact moment. And like I know, the law of diminishing intent is going to get you. You say to yourself, oh, I'll remember. No, go now. In fact, start now, because that's also what I heard today. You have that idea, it has a shot at working, and your worst case scenario is that you learn and you're on the path to constant and never ending improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.